Hey everybody, Saigan here with another episode of Levy University. By request, today we're going to take a look at the core starter deck for Haas-Bioroid, and then we're going to fix it. Out of a lot of the core starter decks, I was actually pretty happy with this one. Going over the deck list, I was like, I don't even know if I want to change anything. But after discussing a bit of it with a fellow player of mine, I think I found a couple of changes that we can make. But first, let's take a look at what comes in it. Starting off, we have the identity card, Haas-Bioroid, Engineering the Future. It's a Mega Core identity, of course, and its ability is the first time you install a card each turn, you gain a credit. Free economy is good economy, and this is very basic free economy. Nothing wrong with it. Perfectly good ability. Could probably run it in just about any kind of Haas-Bioroid deck. Agendas. We have 3 copies of Accelerated Beta Test, which costs 3 to advance, and it is, 3 advancement tokens to score it. It is worth 2 agenda points. When you score Accelerated Beta Test, you may look at the top 3 cards of R&D. If any of those cards are ice, you may install and res them, ignoring all costs. Trash the rest of the cards you looked at. This is so delightfully Haas-Bioroid. It reses and installs ice for free. This is why Haas-Bioroid can get away with running really big, scary ice like Heimdall. I would honestly probably run Accelerated Beta Test in most any Haas-Bioroid deck. It's pretty freaking good. Next up, we have 3 copies of Priority Requisition. It requires 3 advancement tokens to score. It's worth 3 points. When you score Priority Requisition, you may res a piece of ice ignoring all costs. It is a neutral agenda, so you can run it with any corporation. But again, it's really going to shine in Haas-Bioroid because Haas-Bioroid has the biggest and scariest ice, really only being kind of matched by Wayland. But Wayland doesn't have as many tricks to actually get it installed and resed for cheap. We also have 3 copies of Private Security Force. 4 advancement tokens to score. It's worth 2 points. If the runner is tagged, Private Security Force gains click to do 1 meat damage. It's a solid card. We do have some tagging in this deck, but it's not really a focus. Private Security Force works better in Wayland and NBN decks. We don't really have a lot of options as far as agendas are concerned, though, in the core set, so we're going to run 3 of them whether we like it or not. It's okay. Should we happen to tag the runner, then we have stuff we can do with them. Assets. We have 3 copies of Adonis Campaign. It is 4 to res and 3 to trash. You place 12 credits from the bank on Adonis Campaign when it is resed. When there are no credits left on Adonis Campaign, you trash it. You take 3 credits from Adonis Campaign when your turn begins. Drip Economy is fantastic. Drip Economy that gives you a burst each turn for 4 turns is even better. The best part about asset economy, and this might have been looked over by some of you new players, you can res your assets at the end of the runner's turn. You don't have to res them on your turn. Resing an asset does not require any clicks, only the actual installation. So what you can do is you install it face down, completely unguarded. Costs you a click. The runner on their turn wants to see what it is. They either expose it or they run it. Either is fine, and they see Adonis Campaign, something that you have only spent 1 click to play. You have spent no actual money on this yet. They can either deny you from making money off of the Adonis Campaign by dropping 3 credits on it, at which point you have damaged their economy by 3 points for 1 click, a good trade for you, or they can let it sit there. And at the end of their turn, you res it for 4, and then you immediately make 3 back. At that point, it's even worse for the runner to trash it. They should have done it in the first place. The longer it stays out, the better it is for you, and the worse it is for the runner to trash it. It's so good. Run Adonis campaign. Next up, we have 2 copies of Aggressive Secretary. She is an ambush asset. 0 to res, 0 to trash, like many ambushes. She can be advanced. So what she does is she looks like an agenda. You play her like she's an agenda, you protect her like she's an agenda, and you start advancing her. If you pay 2 credits when the runner accesses Aggressive Secretary, you trash 1 program for each advancement token on her. It's a really nice ability. It's more Jinteki's thing to do ambushes, but the fact that you can do it in faction for Haas-Bioroid, the runner won't be expecting it. They expect it from Jinteki, not so much from Haas-Bioroid. Haas-Bioroid does have some ambushes, but it's not what they're known for. It's a strong card, and it punishes the runner. You play it too early, though, and you're not going to have programs to trash. This is more of a mid to late game card when you really want to get rid of certain icebreakers. That, and you have to convince them to run it in the first place. Let's see. We've got 2 copies of Melange Mining Corp. Melange? Melange. I'm going to go with Melange. It's 1 to res, 1 to trash. Asset. It's neutral faction. You can pay 3 credits to, or 3 clicks to gain 7 credits. So for the cost of your turn, you get a burst of economy for 7 credits. It's deceptively good. Sometimes you would just want to click through your turn anyways for 3 credits. This more than doubles the cost of that. And again, it's cheap to res. You play it when you need it, and your runner opponent would have to waste a click to run it, and potentially a credit to trash it. It's not terrible, and it's some of the best burst economy that the corporation has in core set. We have 3 copies of Pad Campaign. Sorry, I've got the hiccups tonight. Okay, 3 copies of Pad Campaign. It's 2 to res, 4 to trash. Anything that costs more to trash than it does to res is automatically great. And you gain 1 credit when your turn begins. This is like Adonis Campaign, but it lasts you more than 4 turns. This will last you so long as the runner allows you to have it. It's a very sweet card. 1 credit for free when your turn begins adds up. For 1 click, you could also potentially cost the runner 4 credits and the click to run. It's a great card all around. I run 3 of them in every corporation deck that I make. Hands down. Moving into Ice, we have 3 copies of Enigma. It is 3 to res, 2 strength, code gate type. It's got 2 subroutines. The first is that the runner loses a click if able, and the second is that it ends the run. It is cheap ice, it ends the run, and it can also be a bit more of a hassle to the runner. This is wonderful, wonderful ice to have in your opening hand. It's not very Haas-Bioroid. It doesn't make use of things like accelerated beta test, but it stops the runner, especially early in the game before they get their rig set up, before they have potentially a code gate breaker. Moving on, we have 2 copies of Heimdall 1.0. He is 8 to res, 6 strength, LBRY AP type ice. The runner can spend a click to break any subroutine on Heimdall 1.0. 3 subroutines. The first is do a brain damage. The second is end the run. The third is end the run. This is that big ice that I mentioned Haas-Bioroid is known for. It has big scary ice. Any ice that has more than 5 strength is outside of Yagasaurus range. 5 strength is just, it's a very common place for icebreakers to sit at. If you go above 5 strength, you're sitting in big ice territory, and it is grand, and it suddenly becomes much more difficult for the runners to break it. Hunter. We have 2 copies of Hunter. It's a neutral faction, ice. 1 credit to res. It is 4 strength. Sentry, Tracer, Observer. It has 1 subroutine, trace at 3 power. If it's successful, give the runner 1 tag. It's okay. This is the kind of thing that would work well with Private Security Force, but honestly, it works better in NBN and Wayland decks, which have a lot better ways to punish the runner when they are tagged. It still gets that tag in there, though, and remember, as a corporation, for a click and 2 credits, you can get rid of a resource that the runner has. That means you can get rid of daily casts. It means you can get rid of Armitage code busting. It means you can get rid of Katie Jones. Tags, even if you don't have an obvious way to punish the runner, most runner economy cards are going to be resources. Tags can let you hurt their economy. We've got Ichi 1.0, 3 copies of him. My mouse keeps moving up to Hunter, excuse me. 5 credits to res him. He is 4 power. Sentry, Bioroid, Tracer, Destroyer. He has all sorts of ice types going on. The runner can spend 1 credit or 1 click to break any subroutine on Ichi 1.0. First subroutine, trash a program. Second subroutine, trash a program. Third subroutine, trace with a base strength of 1. If it's successful, give the runner 1 tag and do 1 brain damage. Ichi is so cool. It'd be better if he was at 6 strength, even for maybe a res cost of 7, but he's still really good where he is now. He's scary ice. He's one of the things that can make the runner nervous to run on you. Speaking of things that makes the runner nervous to run, 2 copies of Rototurret. Rototurret is such a good card. So many people run Rototurret. He is 4 to res, 0 strength. I will point out that while he is Haas-Bioroid faction, he's only 1 influence point, so you can easily see him in any corporation deck. Sentry, Destroyer type. He's got 2 subroutines. He trashes a program, and he ends the run. If they don't have Ninja out, you're going to trash programs, you're going to end the run. It's cheaper than 5, and it ends the run, so it's another really good early game ice. Even if they don't have a program out, it can end the run within the runner's, first 2 or 3 turns before they get that Ninja out there. Once Ninja's out there, all it's really going to do is eat up 2 credits each time. 2 copies of Victor 1.0. He is 3 to res, 3 power, Codegate Bioroid, AP type ice. The runner can spend a click to break any subroutine on Victor 1.0. He's got 2 subroutines. He can do a brain damage, and he ends the run. Again, cheap ice, ends the run, and if the runner's unfortunate enough, you can get that brain damage in there. More than likely, and most runners will not run at the end of their turn. They'll try and get their run in first thing, or maybe on second click. You never want to run on your last click, because you don't know what could happen. You might need to draw your hand back up in case you take damage. This can prevent them from spending the last click or 2 doing something productive. Sounds like that train is right there. I don't know if the mic is picking it up. Hopefully not. Wall of Static, 3 copies. It is 3 to res, 3 strength, barrier ice. It ends the run. This is about as basic as ice gets. The strength is equal to the res cost, and all it does is end the run. It's cheap. You can play it early game, just like the others, like Enigma and Ichi, and it just stops the runner dead in his tracks early game until they manage to get that corroder out to break it. Moving into operations, we've got 2 copies of Archived Memories. It is 0 credits to play, and all it does is it adds a card from Archives to HQ. It's a retrieval card. If you want an important operation back, or you want an asset that got trashed back, like Launch Mining Corp, for instance, or a pad campaign, Archived Memories will do that for you. 3 copies of Biotic Labor. For 4 credits, you gain 2 clicks. This is good in Fast Advance. Fast Advance seeks to use 2 and 3 advancement cost agendas to play them and score them in 1 turn before the runner has a chance to get them. Biotic Labor is a very key card in there. It is useful as all heck in the right deck. Probably not going to run it in this one. 3 copies of Hedge Fund. Hedge Fund is one of my favorite burst economy cards for the corporations. It's the corporation equivalent of Sure Gamble. You spend 5 credits, you make 9. It's a 4 credit gain for you for 1 click. That's really, really good. It's really efficient, and it's neutral. You can run 3 in every deck. In fact, I would recommend running 3 in every deck. Next up, we have, oh my God, you stupid mouse. Shipment from Mirror Morph. 2 copies. It is 1 credit to play. Immediately install up to 3 cards, spending no clicks but paying all install costs. This is an efficiency card, like Biotic Labor, but it is much better for this deck in that it only costs 1 credit, so we have more credits to spend, rezzing our scary ice, and it allows us to immediately get 3 cards out there. We can drop down like 2 pad campaigns and an Adonis campaign, and it just ruins the runner's next turn. We can also just do an ice dump if we want. First turn, let's see, we can play a pad campaign face down, we can hedge fund, and then we can shipment from Mirror Morph and dump our hand. Now we have ice everywhere, we've got economy coming in, we are so good to go. It's a good card, I love it. It's fantastic in Haas-Bioroid. Pretty useful in other corporations as well. It only costs 2 influence points, so it's worth running. Upgrades. We have 1 copy of Corporate Troubleshooter. He is 0 to res, 2 to trash. You can spend X amount of credits and trash him. Choose a piece of rezzed ice protecting this server. That ice has +X strength until the end of the turn. Yay! This will ruin the runner's day. You've got Heimdall sitting out. They've gotten all prepped and ready for it. You know, they've got their ninja out. It's been modded. They have a bunch of money ready. If you're lucky, they even played Stim Hack, and they're going to run. They're going to bust through on Heimdall. Surprise! No, you're not. It's a great card. It's very Haas-Bioroid, and it messes with the math. Last card, we've got 2 copies of Experiential Data. Not experimental like I first believed it to be. It is 2 to res, 2 to trash. All ice protecting this server has +1 strength. This makes 5 strength ice amazing because it gets it into that 6 and above range that doesn't care so much about Yagosaurus. It also, to a lesser degree, will deal with things like Ice Carver that could potentially be weakening your ice. It does only work on 1 server. It's also useful sometimes as a bluff card. You play this on an important server, or you play it on a server that you want your opponent to believe is important. All right, so those are the 49 cards in the core set starter deck for Haas-Bioroid. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to see what we can do with this deck with outside faction cards to see what we can do to maximize its effectiveness within just our limited pool of core set cards. See you when we come back. Be just a moment. All right, everybody, welcome back. Okay, so in the first segment, we went over the core set deck for Haas-Bioroid. Now we're going to take a look at making some changes to it and trying to make it a little bit more competitive. As far as the Haas-Bioroid goes in core set, I actually feel that they're pretty strong. They're one of the better ones. But we can capitalize on their ability to get big ice going with things like accelerated beta test. So first changes that we're going to make is we're going to go ahead and we're going to lose both Hunters. Hunter is a perfectly fine card, and if we were going to run Scorched Earth, we would definitely want Hunter in here. The thing about running Scorched Earth Tag and Bag is that you either need to be splashing a bunch of NBN for tagging abilities, or you're splashing for copies of Scorched Earth. And since it's Haas-Bioroid, we would have to splash in both. It's not terribly efficient, and we really only have some light tagging abilities. So we're going to pass on Hunter. We're also going to take out 2 copies of Archived Memories. Archived Memories, it's a good card. It works better in Fast Advance. It works better in Tag and Bag. It certainly has plenty of deck types that it works in, and it can even work really well in Haas-Bioroid Big Ice, but not so much in the core set. Later on, we'll get access to a lot more assets and operations that make Big Ice even scarier, and Archived Memories will work really well with those because we'll be able to go and retrieve them. We also are dropping 1 copy of Aggressive Secretary. Why? Because she's situational. We don't always want an Aggressive Secretary in our hand. In order to make her truly useful, first of all, the runner has to have programs installed. Secondly, we need to take the time to advance it. Thirdly, if the runner realizes that it's a trap, we've just wasted a lot of time and clicks. So we're going to make it a situational card and therefore only run with 1. We're also going to drop all 3 copies of Biotic Labor. Again, it's not a bad card, but it's a fast advance card, and that's not what we're running. We're running very defensive Big Ice Wall deck. We're also going to drop 1 copy of Melange Mining Corp. Melange is a good card. I like it. We're still going to keep 1 in the deck, but it's one of those things that if you already have it out, it's a complete waste to draw another. Perfectly acceptable to run 2, just in case the first one does get trashed. I don't actually find myself using it too often, so I think 1 is pretty acceptable. And we still have plenty of economy from the pad campaigns and the Adonis campaign. So then, what are we putting in? Well, we're going to put in 2 copies of Wall of Thorns. Wall of Thorns is a Jinteki Ice for only 1 influence. It is 8 to res, 5 strength. It's a barrier AP type ice. It's got 2 subroutines. Do 2 net damage and end the run. It's solid ice. It's big enough to be scary. It does damage and it ends the run. Very good ice. There's not much reason to not run it, especially in a deck that is efficient with big ice and it's easily splashed. Okay, we also have 2 copies of Toll Booth representing NBN, 2 influence. They are 8 to res, 5 strength. This is a code gate, and it has a special ability that is not a subroutine. When the runner encounters Toll Booth, he or she must pay 3 credits, if able. If the runner cannot pay 3 credits, end the run. This is awesome. It forces the runner to have to spend additional credits even if their icebreaker would be able to break subroutines without any problem. Yagasaurus would be able to break this, but the runner would still have to pay those 3 credits to even get the chance to hit those subroutines. We also have 2 copies of Hadrian's Wall, representing Wayland. It seems that each of the corporations in the core set got a big ice to represent them. Hadrian's Wall is the biggest and scariest, well, not scariest, but it's certainly the biggest ice that we have in here. It's another barrier. It is 10 to res. This is the kind of thing that you want to hit with priority requisition and accelerated beta test. It does require 3 influence points per copy. 7 strength barrier. Hadrian's Wall can be advanced and has +1 strength for each advancement token on it, and it's got 2 end of the run subroutines. Wayland's ice, a lot of it can be advanced, and it's very useful because it allows you to pump up your ice past where the runner would be able to effectively run it. Also, that advancement is permanent, but every time the runner runs that ice, they're going to have to spend the additional credits to be able to make it through it. So ice that grows is really good ice. Being able to hit a Hadrian's Wall with priority requisition or accelerated beta test is Christmas time for the corporation. And to top things off, the last change that we're going to make is we have 3 copies of Beanstalk Royalties. Beanstalk Royalties is an operation out of Wayland for only 1 influence point. It is 0 credits to play. It's a transaction. Gain 3 credits. It's very simple burst economy. It's very similar to Hedge Fund. We're running 3 copies because you could always use this card in your hand. You will always be happy to see it. All right, so that is the extent of the changes. It was already a pretty solid deck, so there wasn't too much to do with it. If you enjoy playing Haas-Bioroid, then I highly recommend checking out the Creation and Control expansion, because that has a ton of Haas-Bioroid and Shaper cards if you're playing as a Shaper runner. So that is going to end today's session of Levy University. I hope you guys will join me next time. If you have a request for a core set deck for me to put together, please let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep doing whatever I want. So take care and happy running.